We have a game with the black pieces against Soy Uziel Mendez, rated 1539. And we're going to see if we can get a Caro Kann on the board. But first, Uziel has to play a move. Okay, we get the Caro Kann on the board. And we have the advanced variation. We like this. Okay, so he brings the bishop out. You don't normally see this. This is a weird move. But in any case, it's non-threatening, so I'll just close the pawn chain. He develops the bishop here. I see no reason not to just develop a minor piece. He does the same. Everything is pretty standard. He did move this bishop a little early, which is weird. Undefends this pawn, so I wonder if a queen b6 might prove to be fruitful. So let's throw that in because it's a developing move for free. And without your bishop here, it's kind of awkward for white. At the very least, it's a free move. So he ignores us. So if we take this, the rook's hanging. The only realistic way to protect it, I mean, this hangs the knight, this hangs the knight. So queen takes knight here. That's a free pawn though. And then you can take here. So this is just game losing, right? How you can't ignore this. And my c pawn is still on c6, not c5. So you never have any light square shenanigans. Yeah, the problem here is I'm also taking this pawn, hitting the queen, which makes him trade, and now I just am up 2 pawns, so it's weird. So now we have a completely winning game. We could just trade everything. Our bishop has perfectly good squares and diagonal. It's going to be a very easy conversion because white has no counterplay. So he hits the bishop, but as mentioned, we have this beautiful overprotected square. He tries to harass it, but after we make one prophylactic move that stops 2 of his minor pieces, we can see that these pawns are not scary and there's nothing to worry about. So now because he's down 2 pawns, he's trying to do this all-in approach because he has nothing to play for. But you don't even have a queen, so it doesn't make sense. So in any case, I'm just going to continue developing. I'll start with the close range fighters. If he pushes the g pawn, we take it. If he pushes the h pawn, we just go back and he can never harass us. So what was the point of this other than to weaken your own king and to give us hooks? Having said that, let's just find good squares for our pieces and make as many trades as possible and see what happens. So we're going to gain further space on this side of the board. Okay, so he pushes. I was going to say we were going to play g5 ourselves, but he plays g5. The downside of this is it weakens these light squares, giving our minor pieces beautiful, beautiful outpost. So let's take this knight and put it on a wonderful square. We don't care if he pushes. We don't care if he takes. I know I said we would take, and you definitely can, but there's also no need to because neither of these are threats. And so I might as well get my piece to a beautiful square. It also unclogs my bishop, so I can now put that on e7, and my position is perfect. No weaknesses, I just grabbed 2 free pawns with a queen b6 idea. The more ideas you can remember, you can see what your opponent does and then see which one you can apply. So he left the game because he sees that these don't do anything, and my knight's beautiful. It would have been nice if he resigned. He's back, so I'm apparently just talking nonsense. It's an internet connection issue. So he takes the pawn. I mean, this can't benefit him because our king's not there and his is. So we're going to recapture, opening up the g file for our rook as opposed to his rook. So if anything, he's helping us get the attack, so we thank him for that. We can castle queenside, or we can leave our king in the center. For example, d7 one day is a nice square. But for the time being, let's see what white does. And we don't need to rush to play c5. Like, when you have normal Caro Kanns and everything's equal and even, white has more space, you're trying to equalize, you need c5 to do that. But when you're up 2 pawns, you don't need to do that. So things change. Okay, so he goes bishop here, but this knight's on an outpost, so it never has to move unless I want it to. So that's a little bit weird. Let's improve our rook for free with the natural check. The one downside is our bishop is undefended after that, so we have to watch out if we move the knight. But this is an example where we can throw this tactic in, check, and whatever he does, we can pick up the bishop. So if we want to trade our knight for his bishop, we can do that. Our knight is very beautiful here because it's an outpost pressuring the center, but because we already have our win condition, I'm going to go take this bishop of his. That way we're the only ones with a bishop, and it comes for free, and it just controls a lot of squares. And now the knight is no longer blocking the bishop, right? If we left the knight there, our bishop, its usefulness is restricted a bit. So he moves the rook over. And I mean, it doesn't really matter what you do because you're up a lot of stuff. We do have this knight though, and this bishop. They're not in the game as much as we'd like. We'll just go rook c8, c5, c4, c3, c2, queen. That's my plan. So he moves some pawns on this side of the board. Again, breaking where his king is. I'm not really sure what his plans are. So I'm going to ignore him and go c5. Okay, he continues breaking. Okay, I mean, I'll take it. Now I have an open H file towards the king. Wait, what are you thinking now? How do you push that pawn without having your follow-up? I assume he's going to take with a minor piece, one or the other. So he takes with that. But how do you defend this pawn? So like, let's say I go over and attack the pawn, the new weakness. Do you push it? It still hangs. Yeah, it's a weird... This is all weird for him. And just like in lots of French lines, your king just stays at home, never even moving. Fully protected by the light square pawns on the diagonals. So he moves his knight to support this complex, but we're going to take this with check. So we get free stuff, improve our rook, weaken his king, and he pins himself. I wasn't expecting that. So now we have a sequence of moves that probably wins material. For example, kick the knight is forcing. Kick this knight is forcing and gang up on this bishop. So let's just play c4 without too much thought. Gets the turn back, gets rid of all the pressure, makes his rook look dumb. It creates a passed pawn, super close to promotion. But you don't even need to do that. Like, you could have taken, you could have left it there. I'm doing it because it comes for free, removes all of his ideas, and then I'm still going to get free moves one way or another. Potentially you could sack the rook down some lines. But yeah, he's toast, and now that I took away all c5 piece activity from him, it's one of those positions where you might want to resign. Like, it feels really bad. So he goes forward, but this hangs stuff, let's take the knight. Our knight was doing nothing over here the whole game. Now we can develop with threats. You could take with the rook. Either way is fine. If you take with the bishop, maybe he'll throw in a check. Although I think that actually helps you. So because it helps you, let's let him do that. It helps you because you're now protecting the undefended rook. And it's a threat. right? Because you're up so much stuff he doesn't want to trade. So by moving your king, it's coming with a threat. So people only look at this king move as, oh, it's a defensive thing. But no, it's an aggressive thing. Because now if he trades, that's not good for him. Because he's down 4 clean pawns. 3 passed here. You know, even if he gets the rook here, I lift my king, right? Like, it's not a thing. So we're going to take that rook since it's hanging. And the knight defends the bishop. So let's attack the knight. And something's going to collapse. And this pawn chain, connect 4, we win. We take the knight, followed by the bishop. Right? Or he'll move the bishop here maybe. But at the end of the day, my opponent offers a draw. I don't get why they do that. Like, why do you care so much about your rating? Even if you keep your rating this game, you know the guy led you. Like, if you could contact Lead Chess and they can just give you a rating of like 2100, that can't feel good because once you play a game against an actual 2100, you're going to get destroyed. So I don't get why people want the fake rating or to be boosted in any way, shape, or form. The only thing that makes sense to me is to want a lower rating so you can try new ideas, new openings, you know, against lower rated players so you can work your way into it since you're new to it. But since my opponent left the game, I'm going to claim victory in 8 seconds. And that's a good idea for you guys if you want to, because a lot of you are worried about your rating, and so you refuse to start a new opening because you know you're going to be worse at it. Create a new account. Start from the bottom again. You'll get used to the most common responses and build your way up, and you don't have to worry about, you know, your elo on a website. So let's go through the game. All right, good enough, 93%. So let's just talk through it. Caro Kann, Caro Kann advance, development and center, center and development, development and center. Now development, center, and for free. And white's best move is to retreat the bishop back home. So you see how when he moved it out, I thought it was a weird looking move. Well, now it's connected apparently to the defense of this pawn. That's why it's weird. Oops. And the second he castles, it goes from an equal game to minus 1.6. So effectively losing against a good player. So now you know if you play Caro Kann from the white side, and in many other openings, leave this dark square bishop at home, the queen's bishop, and wait to develop it for the right time. So he castles and we take free stuff. And his best move is to hang the rook apparently. Because then my queen is somewhat trapped. What's the line here? It goes here, which is a queen trap line, and how do we evacuate? B5. So you don't take the rook. A5, H6 or develop. Okay, that's good to know you don't take the rook in a lot of these lines. But you still get free pawns, so that's really bad for him. So we take a free pawn, and now we take a second pawn, free stuff, and it's -2. So one little mistake and white just loses. Force move. Let's turn the line off. Force move, -2. Force move. Development and center. They could say mistake all they want, but it's -2 and completely winning. What was their perfect approach? Yeah, you see some H5, but it doesn't really matter. He plays H5 himself, but you're still completely winning, so it's not even a thing. Force move. Improving a piece. Force move. improving a piece for free. And now just a cheeky trade, but I think a beneficial one. So forcing moves, improving a piece for free. Improving a piece, you don't have to make this move, but you can do whatever you want because you're so dominating here. So we just go for the C5 plan to increase the activity of our pieces, center and development. Then he does some weird stuff on this side, so force move. Now improving a piece for free. Free stuff. And now it's -6. You can win however you want. You can develop the bishop and add pressure. You can pin the knight now that this one left the square. But I start with this forcing move, and then I'll get to one of the other forcing moves afterwards. But he hangs stuff, so I take free material, take the free pawn. I deem the check irrelevant, helpful if anything. And then he hangs the rook and asks for a draw. So hopefully this helps you in your Caro Kanns. Now you have it in your head from the black side. Oh wait, he developed his bishop so early. Maybe queen b6 is an idea, so you could play around with that. Submit your rapid games in my Discord. Good luck in your chess. Goodbye.